We are together again. We had such a great last episode. Sam Divine was monstrous. I want to thank her for coming on True House Stories. And this is what makes this show one of the most watched, most educational, and stoic and historic. We've been able to get the truth from many of our peers. And so much has been, we've just discovered so much because of this show. Thank the universe, God. I don't want to thank COVID for making me do this, but I have to say, thanks to COVID, as bad as COVID was, we actually did something really amazing out of it. This is what came out of it. And coming soon, we'll be on 3 years. Could you imagine we'll be 3 years old already? Some talk of some great things coming up, and hopefully through the hopes and prayers of all of you helping me to get through this. It's been one of those moments. First, I want to give a special thanks to Faith. That's Terry Farley, as a.k.a. Terry Farley, Terry Brown, Junior Boy's Own, Defected Crew. That's Wes Saunders, Simon Dawson, all the staff at Defected for putting together this magazine this month. And wonderful that we were able to get 2 great articles talking about the 1990s journey into sound. And of course, myself, as I always say, everyone has a beginning. Get your copy. And remember the price. It's a very expensive price. It's for free. You heard me say it, free. Welcome to True House Stories. And good evening around the world, and good afternoon or good morning wherever you are. Today, I dig deep into the treasure trove of the 80s. And I say the 80s because everybody has, I always say, a beginning. And this brother has a beginning that is a force to be reckoned with. Working alongside Norman Jay at one time at High on Hope as a resident DJ, to open up a record shop in London at a time when things were cutting edge and house music was starting to, as we should say, take its grips of the UK, and London being the London town as it is. I must give this man his due right. You know, back in 84, he was floating around and doing his thing and starting to play. And he even got to play with Soul to Soul's party, Jazzy B, which is an honor. So, and along the way, he left us with some massive hit records in house music. Those that remember that Salsoul Nugget record. That's another big one. But plus, he's also remixed, produced, written, worked alongside, and just done such wonderful things to our business. And he just was telling me that he was in New York last couple of weeks. And it's funny, and I always say this, as I saw the posting with another friend of ours that we know, Benji Candelaria, that was supposed to do this show, left me hanging. We're going to get him. So 25 or 30 years can go by and not see someone. And within 5 minutes, that long span doesn't exist any longer. Because one thing brings us all together. It's that 4/4 beat in dance music. I'd like to welcome to the show, True House Stories and the family, Mr. Ricky Morrison.
Hello.
Ricky Morrison. The hour. Welcome to the show, my brother, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. And thank you all you lovely people out there. Big up Mr. Lenny Fontana for doing this over the past few years. My goodness gracious, he's found some people and he's found some glorious nuggets of information and stories.
And we're still going to keep it going. We're not going to stop. We found that one word is prevalent in this show: true. The word true. We get the story from the person. It's the most important part to what makes this show fundamentally right.
You're absolutely right. And it's documented. That's the main thing as well. Forever and ever. It's not going to go out of print or anything like that. It's there forever and ever. That's fantastic.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, Ricky, you were in New York, huh? Before we get to the thing, how did that feel coming back over this way, the Transatlantic Express?
It's changed a lot since the last time I was there. Last time I was there was probably the early 2000s. A lot of smell of funny cigarettes in New York as well. My goodness. I was standing outside, what's it called? What's it called? The Penn Station? Penn Station.
Yeah.
I took the train. I took the LNR, whatever it is, the LNR train from JFK through Queens.
Okay.
Got to there, walked outside, all the yellow taxis, and I'm going, what's that smell? Oh, my God. I was getting high.
That smell. We've been hearing it smell.
I was getting high on the fumes, yeah. So that was quite cool. Yeah,
I went to that smell, brother. We know that smell. Oh my God, it's crazy. It's crazy that it actually became legal here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, it's like everyone was just running around doing their thing. I thought, wow, okay.
Because back in the day, everybody be hiding behind, like.
That's right.
Like going. Now it's just like.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay. I tell you, it's funny how things change.
Yeah, very funny. Yeah, but it's still a great city, huge. Didn't realize how big it was.
You forgot.
I forgot. I mean, a block is like, you know, just 2 blocks down the road. It's like, yes, it's quite a big place, big place.
But again, you know, of course, we want to remind everyone that you're still here, better than ever. And have not aged. It's incredible. I mean, yes, we've all gotten older, but man, it's like, yo, man, they say it, and I'm going to be clear on it. They say, not don't crack. And it's true. This is so true. The man looks the same. Like when I met him.
Wow.
What happens? It's like, but I
don't know. I've no idea. Good Italian wife, I think, as well. So that's good.
Beating your hiney, banging it. Get going. Let's go. All right. So everybody would like to know, of course, you know, I asked this one question to everyone, and it's the most important question, and we'll let you fire away because there'll be a lot for you to tell us, because I know you're a plethora of a tremendous amount of information. How does music find you, or you finding music as a young kid? Because this journey starts from somewhere. Everyone has that beginning. Share with us that beginning.
I think it started from primary school, when I was like about, 11, 12, 13 years old. You know, I mean, it was just one of those things. I was immersed. My dad and my mum used to buy a lot of music, of reggae music and two-tone kind of stuff on Decca records back in the day. But I think it just started from there. But also because I used to play the clarinet classically, and I got to like grade 6 playing the clarinet. My music teacher said I can sing a perfect A, which was quite nice. So I was just very naturally talented in terms of the music, and it just kind of drew me towards, listening to like really lovely songs. And I was always listening to the Radio 1, or the Mike Reeds, and I remember on Saturday listening to a guy called Robbie Vincent. Used to play a lot of jazz funk kind of stuff. Greg Edwards used to listen to a lot, who has a great show on My Soul, which me and Brandon are part of on a Friday. He used to do a show called Soul Spectrum. And I used to listen to those, used to pause the tape, play the listen to record the records, pause another record. And when we used to go out clubbing in the car, we used to play those tapes that we recorded. It just stemmed from there, really. And then I found a record shop. Oh God, I keep jumping. I keep jumping because I keep remembering things in my head. I remember going to my first shop was Bluebird Records, and it was in Church Street in Paddington, London. Also, there was Groove Records in Greek Street, Soho. But catch a groove. Bluebird Records was the first record shop I went to, and I met a guy called Abby Shah, who is very instrumental in my journey, where I am right now, because he's the one that really paved the way for me to immerse myself in all styles of music, but I guess music found me in terms of listening to radio shows, going to clubs a lot, listening to people, DJs in clubs and stuff like that, and then coming back. And then because I was a computer engineer at the time, I had more money than sense. So all my wages was going on buying records. Sometimes I've still got records now that I bought back then just to buying sake that are still sealed, because, you go down that road as a record collector. When you buy a record, you look at the credits and you say, oh, who produced that record? Oh, Nick Martinelli produced that record. And what else he's done? And you go, oh, who engineered that record? Oh, it's Steve Pesco produced that. Oh, who did the mastering? Oh, it's Herb Powers. Anything that you saw that had those names on, you just buy blind because you knew it had some kind of quality to it, So
Herb Pumpin' Powers.
Pump Powers.
Frankfurt Wayne.
Yeah, we made sure that me and Fred made sure he mastered our one of our records on Strictly Rhythm, Also, who engineered it, who engineered the record, because there's a certain sound that I like. It's very American, very dense, very warm kind of sound. And me and Fran found out all the outboard gear that was used to create that sound, So, I think it just, I just became an avid collector of music, and just immersed myself in all different styles: jazz, funk, soul, rock, punk, new wave. I remember buying Elvis Costello, Pump It Up, because I loved it. Yoko Ono, Walking on Thin Ice. I remember buying that before I didn't even know it was being played at the garage and the loft and stuff like that, The Clash, all those kind of stuff, Iggy Pop, used to buy all that kind of stuff. But I think I've moved towards the soul, the soul and funk area because of the shows that I was listening to at the time, Capital, BBC One. What else was there? Ray, was it? Oh gosh, LWR. There was Kiss, obviously, back in the day. There was what's that radio? I'm trying to remember the station that was Robbie Vincent was on. The London state, nationwide station, but yeah.
I was going to say Radio Luxembourg, but that's not a.
It must have been called Radio London. Was it called Radio London? I can't remember.
Somebody out there in the audience, help Brother Ricky to bring him back to that. Let's see who somebody will come up with the answer. I know someone's going to write it. By the way, Les Sharm is in the house. He says,
"Oh, Les, yeah, he engineered a few of our records back in the day at PWL." Because
good guy, I remember him very well. Great engineer.
Yeah,
she could never do enough.
That's right. Yeah. God, PWL, that was a great time, but that's further down the road.
So, during that time, you're working as a computer engineer specialist, and you're doing record collecting. I guess this DJing thing on the radio is becoming something more prevalent.
What happened was I was buying music, and I had a collection of friends who have the same interest as myself. And we grew up together going to all these clubs from Wednesday to Monday, actually. All week we were going to these clubs. And we were immersing ourselves in more of the soul, funk, jazz, hip-hop kind of sound, And it just got to a point where we thought, you know what? We're going to these clubs, and some of the DJs are playing some of the records that we buy, but they haven't got the records that we've got. So we thought, well, let's try and do a sound system together. So we created a sound system called the System Inc. And we built our own speakers. We had a makeshift console with Joe. I've got to say, big up Joe Bonds, Delroy Yard, Huey Foster, Richard Smart, Agent Timothy, Lance Pedler, Those are like the core people that used to go out together on a Saturday, from Wednesday to Saturday, and each night had a different theme. Like Friday, we'd go to like Royalty, place called Royalty in Southgate. We had a DJ called Froggy playing there that used to go to the garage. He used to play on a Friday. There was Sean French on a Saturday. There was, oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember all the names now. Oh my God. But anyway, there was, we used to immerse ourselves in that kind of music, but because they weren't playing the records, some of the records that we had, we thought we'd make our own sound system. So basically, Joe built the speakers and built the console. And then what we do is that a friend of ours was an estate agent, and he used to have all these houses which were empty. So what we used to do is basically get the keys from the estate agent, put the speakers into the house. And there's a place called Pronto-Print, which used to go and print some flyers and dish them out to people in the streets and stuff like that, and then have a party on a Saturday. Sometimes we had a party at a good friend of ours in his house. We had a party in his house where we just had the top floor, and we had Fran upstairs. Fran, my ex-business partner at M&S, he had a sound system called One Touch. He had a system upstairs, and we had a system downstairs, and we'd be competing against each other. You know, it was a great. But we had one party where we did a party at the Victoria and Albert Museum in the penthouse suite, because I think that one of our friends' dad was a security guard. So we'd have to ferry the people from the station through the museum up into the penthouse suite to have the party,
which you could never.
Which you could never do now. I mean, we were so innocent back then. I mean, it was just it's great times. Great times. I'm remembering everything now. I mean, you know, carrying the records in milk crates, and each of us had a designated genre of music, where Joe would be more of a two-step, like a rare groove kind of thing. Delroy would be the reggae section. Huey would be the rap and hip hop, and I'd be more of like the disco, soul and funk and stuff. Yeah, it's great. Great time.
Did Froggy set the tone on the sound system building thing? Or was
he was the mate. Everyone used to go to see him because of the sound system. I think he had something like he built his own console as a mat amp. I remember it was a mat amp, like huge, like a TARDIS type console. But he had these these sound system at Royalty was ridiculous. I mean, you'd be on the balcony, and the system would just wash right through the club. It's not like just in a certain area, go right down to the end with no delay, nothing. It was just incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And he used to mix, back in the day, three guys really impressed me with their mixing like funk and soul, but really blending, not like tracking, but more just easing the record in just at the right time, just to keep it moving. That was Froggy, Colin Hudd, and Paul Anderson. Those guys there, they really inspired me to try and create a texture, just a rolling texture, not like, oh, here comes the mix, it's coming in. It's just like, just at the right, and Kenny Carpenter used to do that, does that as well. Just gets it in just at the right time and just goes.
Yeah, it takes you on a journey. It's like, it just happened like this.
Back in the day, you couldn't mix those kind of records, obviously, because there were live drums, unless you had like the 80s synthesized kind of pop records. You can do that all day long, but all the disco records and the funk records, they were live drums, so you had to get them at the right place. And Froggy used to do that really, really well. He used to mix disco really well, really, really well.
Ricky, one thing I remember when I first met Trouble in the early 90s, I remember asking him, I said, Trouble, did you ever come to New York? Because you play like an American. And he started laughing. You never came to New York.
No, you got to understand, Lenny, that back in the day, those record shops that we went to, I mentioned before, Groove Records and Bluebird with Abby, they were buying American imports like it was rice. I mean, I can see my record collection now. Everyone had that little S import on the sleeve. You know, we were buying everything American, everything, and sometimes some labels were sending them to the UK because they weren't sending them in America. So they were quite lucky to be getting those records. And because, as an engineer, I was just buying everything. In fact, Abby told me to stop buying records. Because I was just buying it blind and can't give it to you, And I was buying I used to buy 3 copies of a record, 2 to mess around with, and 1 just to have sealed in my collection. It's incredible. But we really immersed ourselves in the American sound because of our heritage, being West Indian or Afro-Caribbean. We kind of leaned towards that more soulful kind of sound. So we went into like the hits out, the records that are out in the 80s in England. We're more American based. In fact, we probably knew more about the landscape of American sound than the Americans, because we'd be getting things from everywhere, from Detroit, from Chicago, LA, New York, Florida. We'd be getting all those records from that thing, not just the major labels, but all the independent labels, they were sending the records over. So, London was kind of like being the center of of music in general from the Americans, from like the 80s and until like probably to the late 90s. We're getting everything.
Well, it's true, because I remember when I first met you, you knew everything and what we were all doing. Everything.
Yeah.
You had the music. You had the knowledge. I remember I came back to America saying, we can't get shot. You
can't. Yeah, I mean,
it's sad, but it's true. But when I got to England, you knew what my first records were. It was just like, I was so gobsmacked over it.
I do remember because we knew everything, because we knew everything. When the Americans DJs first came over, I'm going to say it like it is. When they first came over, I got to admit, all of us were going like, and what's going on? Because I think the Americans had the mentality where, they don't know about this, they don't know about that. So they were playing a lot of records, which you're thinking, oh, come on, man. We know these records. So step by step, after year by year, a lot of the big players realized that. And they said, okay, if you were going to go there, let's go there. And then gradually they really started to play how they play in America, whereas just not like coming over to England and playing all this fluffy stuff, because we weren't having it, because we knew.
Oh, I remember.
We knew the DJs had those records and we wanted them to play those records. I think that's a general consensus as a DJ. When you go to another country, you assume that they don't know, but they do know. Otherwise they wouldn't have booked you. Do you understand?
Right. No, you're right. No, I can't.
They wouldn't have booked you.
So let's go back a little bit. He mentioned that he was coming to New York in the 80s. So before we get into that 90s era, I want him to give you his heritage of how he understands the whole rhythm of the street from across the pond and coming to the United States. He told me about a friend of his that was living here. So I'm going to let you
take a friend of mine, his name is Gary Grant. I saw him when I was out there a few weeks ago. Gary Grant, I haven't seen it. I didn't see him for like 20, 30 years. Anyway, around the 80s, when we were all clubbing, he announced that he was moving to New York. And we were almost crying because he was a proper wingman, Actually, he used to be the ladies' man. We used to go to the clubs and all the girls used to swoon around him when we get the scraps, kind of thing.
He's a magnet, mate.
He's a magnet. So and we were gutted that he was leaving. So anyway, he moved to New York, and but we kept in touch, obviously.
Do you remember what year that was about? Do you remember what year that was?
This was 80. This must be about 80. This was just after Electric Ballroom kind of era, 83, 84, around that time. So he moved to New York, got himself settled, lived in Flatbush in Brooklyn. And I had cousins in Queens and in Flatbush, so I was going over there and meeting him. And then he called me one day and he goes, Rick, I need to take you to this club. I goes, what club? He goes, this club called The Garage. Because he used to work for Alvin Ailey, and Alvin Ailey was one of the most prolific dance companies back in the day. And a lot of the people that he would be dancing with would go to this place called The Garage. So they invited him to go to The Garage. And, you know, he was listening to music that we were actually listening to in England. So he thought, oh, Rick, you know, we've got to go there. So he goes, it's a gay, but it's not gay on Fridays. I goes, okay, cool. Well, I had no problem at all. So I go to this club now, you know, obviously going up the ramp, you go into this little room, you see all these people with these bags. I'm thinking, what's going on here? You know, obviously it's a change.
What's the deal with the bag, right? Everybody's like, what is that?
You know, I'm thinking, what in there? Like a real dark blue light, and they're all like stuffing around doing their thing, you know, trying to get themselves ready. Open this curtain, go into this place. I'm thinking, what the... This system was just rumbling, like rolling. Everyone's just, you know, like, so hedonistic, losing their mind. Everyone had their in their own little moment on the dance floor. No one, not like now, where everyone's like going.
Oh, you mean like this?
You know, like this. You know, yeah. Everyone was just in their own little moment. Their own little moment. It was just ridiculous. I mean, the system was incredible. And then I'm going, where's the booth? Where's the booth? I look up and there's this little slit up the top there, and you just see Larry's head going like this. You know, I'm thinking, oh my God. And I went right down to the far corner so I couldn't be seen, because everywhere I was going, people were like nudging me and looking at me, and like I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen here? You know, because obviously, you know, it was a gay club, you know.
I must say, on a Friday night, beautiful women.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really concerned with that, because I was trying to watch.
You were going to get mauled, because
I was kind of shuffling around the back of the club, make sure my back's on the wall, kind of thing, you know. But yeah, I went there a few times. I went on a pilgrimage there every year. I remember some of the moments there. I mean, they were very, very special times. I mean, I got to admit, when Larry was playing. I mean, I don't know, maybe I caught the later end of The Garage, but it was musically, it was fantastic. Because of the sound system predominantly, you know, because of the sound system. But I got to admit that the blend was a little bit more to be desired, if that makes sense. You know, David DePino was on point. He was really, really cool. But yeah, there's a couple of nights. I mean, maybe I did go on a couple of bad nights, but there's one night Larry was really on fire, but he was just swashbuckling, making the sound go loud, then soft, and everything like that. But it really, but the crowd made me go, this is what I want to be doing. You know, this is where I want to be. The music, I think this is where I need to be going to, because it wasn't about mixing, it was about the selection. Do you understand? The transitions were wrong, but the records were right at the time. Where he knew the crowd that he was playing to. You know, I remember once when I heard this was quite a while ago. I think he played Jamie Principle, and he had this Jamie, you know, from nowhere, and then you hear dum dum, but the speed was really slow. Not like the tempo of it is, because tempo is like 130, right? Yeah. All you hear is dum 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 dum, and Jamie, you know, and then he mix into like what was it, Thriller with the Vincent, you know, and all that. It was technically. But sound system, he knew how to work the system. Same thing as when he played at Ministry of Sound. The first night he played at Ministry of Sound, same thing when he was playing like and I remember him playing what was that track? He played a Boy Jarvis track. Hold on. Oh my God, Central Line. He played that Fleetwood on Fleetwood Records. Oh my God! So Yellow Label, I can see it now. He played that, but the bass, like with all of the drum, I can't remember the drum patterns, the drum sounds back in the day. You know that sound, that Boy Jarvis and Timmy sound. That I can't remember the drum machine, but anyway, he played that.
I think that was the Alesis. That was that Alesis machine they used.
I can't remember.
It's a great.
But any of those records with a huge bass line and a huge sound effect was just like incredible. Best sounds I've ever seen. Best sounds I've ever witnessed. The best. Zanzibar is another one. That was woof. I went to the Zanzibar as well to hear Tony play on the Thorns. That was quite cool. But he was more of this was like the later 80s when I went to do all the clubs in the late 80s, all like Save the Robots with DJ Smash with the sand floor. I remember that. The floor was made of sand. That was incredible. More of an after hours club. And what else? Mars. Went to Mars with the 5 floors.
Yeah.
Went to the World to hear Frankie Knuckles play. The Palladium with the screens. So I was brought up more of us. Going back to your question, I was always influenced by American music, you know, so it's really nice to have gone to the source and actually heard those records played in those environments, you know, and I was quite lucky actually to be able to have gone to that hallowed place and a lot of other places because I knew the people out there, you know, they got me into the clubs. Otherwise I'd be a deer in headlights, wouldn't I?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean, you know, how could you not? I mean, you know, I always say this, when you're in the middle of it at that time, you're not realizing this is going to end ever.
Exactly.
You're just living, you know, you're living day to day. I can't explain it. You're not thinking, oh, this is going to be over soon, you know, or this era is going to end.
Those clubs, like when me and Abby went to the Sound Factory, it's here Junior Vasquez, and he played one of our records that was on our label, tracked by, on Catch a Groove Records, it was called, and then tracked by Total Science. And he played it because he heard us. He said we're in the club, and he played that record. And that was just like ridiculous, hearing our own record in the Sound Factory, not Sound Factory, Sound Factory. You know, that sounds just ridiculous. And also, we went to see. We went to the Tunnel. I remember that one, the Tunnel. That was a great club, like a huge club and the subways at the very, very end.
Yeah, with the train tracks. Yeah,
train tracks. That was incredible. That was that club there. That's where I met Boy Jarvis there.
Let me show everybody. Look.
Yeah, there he is, the man himself.
Rest in peace. May he rest in peace. But what a talent! Oh my God!
I've got to say huge, humongous props to Abigail Adams. She is instrumental in my little captures of time over there. Me and Abby went there. It was just incredible. She invited us to the shop.
She's a sweetheart. She's a wonderful person, Abby.
That shop was ridiculous.
Isn't that funny, Ricky? Both Abbies that we know, even Abby's partner, he was a doll. He's a sweetheart. And Abigail Adams.
Abigail Adams treated me and Abby like family, you know, went to the house, had food, took us to all the places, let us go to the back of the shop with all the cutouts and stuff. Oh my God, it was ridiculous. I was like a kid in a candy store. She's on the phone. I'm going, oh, it'd be lovely to meet Boyd or Kevin.
Yeah, she said, and ding, 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 ding. She's like,
hey, Boyd, I got some guys that want to meet you. I'm like, oh my God, you know, Boyd Jarvis.
Wait, the Boy Jarvis?
Yeah, oh my God. I'll never forget that. Took us out, met in the tunnel, then went to his house. I remember being at a table. Me and Abby were sitting on a table in this apartment. I think it's his apartment. And me and him would look at each other, and we're looking across the table with this Boy Jarvis. Like, all the me and Abby used to be incessant in buying all Boy Jarvis stuff, all the System stuff, David, Frank and McMurphy. That's why we called ourselves a System, because we love that kind of funky that's electronic synthesized sounds. So we called ourselves a system. So we, I'm going off on a tangent here, but
it's all right. No, well, I'll keep you on the tracks. Don't worry.
With the boy Jarvis, we just love that synthesized, funky bass on the one, and Boyd was the king of those bass lines and the organ riffs and that. So we were buying anything with his name on it. Stimulation, Legend, Whip Your Hips, all kind of stuff. Tammy Lucas, obviously the music got me. He did a lot of stuff. We did I had to run to New York to buy Running by Colonel Abraham's.
I was going to say that. There's Colonel Abraham's track.
A one-sided one. I paid $40 for that. I remember a shop on Broadway. It was near Pop Shop when I used to get all the Keith Haring stuff. There was a shop down there. I remember buying Log, Dancing to the Stars for 40 cents and Running for $40. A white label Running. I got it somewhere. One-sided and the other side is all messed up. I had to have that record. And now, obviously, with Boyd passing away, you can actually have access. If you go to his maybe his website's still live, you can get all that stuff, buy it, So, yeah.
What a great talent.
Yeah, great talent.
So,
wow.
When did you decide to retire from the computer engineering? And
what happened was a bit of a sequence of events, to be fair. I was doing really well in the computing job, really, really well. And I was commanding like about 5 or 6 engineers in that, I think, called an M25 area. So I used to look after all the hotels in like the Savoy and stuff like that, because the company I was working for had the contracts for them. So we had to do like a 4-hour response. So I was a young kid, had the company car, had the phone before anyone else had the phone, because, it was crazy back then. And I was doing so well that they wanted me to relocate to Birmingham on Christmas Eve. So they said, Rick, we need you to go to Birmingham to do this call. And then when you go up there, you need to go and find a place, because next year you're moving up there and you're going to make sure everything's tight in Birmingham. I went, no. I'm not doing that. It's Christmas Eve. I'm not doing that. I'll do the call, but I'm not, I'll go to Birmingham. I'm not going to be scouting around in the new year for a job. He goes, you either do that or you're sacked. I went, okay, sack me then. Sack me. So he sacked me Christmas Eve.
Nice guy.
Right? Went through all the tribunals, got all the money and all that stuff, and around that time, 89, 90, because obviously I was working, there's a little backstory to that, because between like 86 and like 89, I was a Saturday boy at a place called Red Records. And there was 3 Saturday boys. Abby was working at the shop at the time. He was the manager of the shop. And the Saturday boys that used to work on a Saturday with Abby was myself, Seamus Haji, Trevor Nelson.
Oh, Trevor went on. Look what
and Jeremy Newell. We were the Saturday boys there. And so we were, because of our knowledge of music, we were absolutely killing it. People coming in their droves buying records. I remember, and also because of Abby's contacts, we had a lot of the people who were performing in America, in the UK coming over. We had the whole Cutting Records crew, and there was a little guy called Little Louis Vega hanging in the background coming through. There was Benji, there was Aldo Marin, there was, because remember that record, Wiggle It?
Oh yeah,
that was huge back then, and they came over to tour. So they would come into the store and hang out. Anyway. I used to be a Saturday boy there doing all the records, all when French Kiss came out, when all the huge, massive, and me and Abby were more, back in the day, there was a competition in the 80s between Chicago and New York.
Oh yeah.
I would call it New York club music, which is all the Easy Street, Jump Street, all those independent labels, Apexion, Joe Church, all those kind of records. And then there was Chicago, where you had like Diamond, you had like, oh my God,
Tracks.
Underground, what's it called? Underground House or something, Tracks, you know, all those. So me and Abby were more akin to the New York style, and then it was Chicago, so it was more acidic, more energetic, you know. So I would be selling all those kind of records, and Abby would be selling those, and then Jeremy would be selling all the bits in between. But that's how Jeremy got his knowledge of music. He was just an animal, taking everything in, and Trevor was there doing his thing. Seamus was there. Oh my God. Anyway, so that happened, and because of that, me and Abby being frustrated, and all the Saturday Boys making this guy so much money because people were coming in. Dave Lee used to come in with a box of records, Republic Records, Sailor Return, because we were the only shop that was selling that kind of music. That we were able to get the people to come in to buy those kind of music. You know, Phase 2, Reaching, Stardust, you know, all those kind of records. And Early Republic used to come in with a box of records and you know, Sailor Return. But because we had that knowledge. And those people used to come into the store all the time to actually. I
think I have the picture from Republic.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Blaze was on Republic.
That was Blaze, Kevin Hedge,
and Josh,
and Josh. Yeah, no, Chris Herbert. Chris Herbert, yeah, great vocalist, great vocalist.
Before they got signed to Motown. This is way before they got
This is way before. This is like on Quark, when on Quark Records. I met Curtis in New York. Yeah, I remember meeting him as well. What a guy. Great guy. Oh my God, Curtis. That was a label, Quark Records. Oh my God.
And Freddie Stone mixing the records, these house records.
Right? Yeah, Stardust. Yeah, remember Blaze, If You Should Need a Friend.
If You Should Need a Friend.
Can't Win for Losing. I remember early Jamanda records. Wow, that label was fire. That was fire, that label. It's a Mystery, Phase 2. Oh my God, that piano reprise, that was a great record. Anyway, yeah, so cut a long story short, we were working at this store, making mad money. The owner wasn't really interested. I got made redundant. I got made redundant. Abby and us were.
They fired you?
Huh?
They fired you from that shop?
No. The computer shop.
Oh, okay, got it.
The computers. So they fired me, and I got a whole bunch of money from that. And at that particular time, we were really quite frustrated with the demographic of the Red Record store. So we thought, you know what? Let's open up our own record store. So I got my money from the redundancy and Abby, and we all put it together, and we found a space in Dean Street, and we called it Catch a Groove. And we painted the walls. We were, and at that time, Black Market was around, and they were the only because when you used to go to a record shop back in the day, you didn't have all the records on display. You'd have them in the racks, and then you'd go and find which one you wanted, and then there'd be silence. There'd be like the records would be chosen. Bosh, do you want it? Yes, no, okay. Bosh. It was like that back in the day. You know, you'd have to wait for your turn, but with Black Market, they changed the game by actually mixing the records
right
into each other for people to buy the records. But we flipped it completely, and we made the whole day like a mega mix. So if someone were to hear a record, we'd go, it's in the pile, and we play it in the sequence where we thought the records would work. And that's how we would sell so many records, because me and Jeremy had it down where we'd play a certain break record at a certain time, and it got to a point where the place was so packed, like a meeting place. We need to get rid of some records, Jeremy. We need to get rid of like 15 of these records. So we'd mix in this break, and then we're going, oh. So we go on people.
Like an auction house, house would start.
And Jeremy came up with, I think it maybe Jeremy also came up, you need this, you need 2 of these records, so you can mix this with this and this. And we were selling like 2 or 3 copies of one record to one person. you know, but I've got to say, the records that we were selling were real quality records that stand the test of time. We weren't no rubbish, you know. So anyway, yeah, we built the shop. Because of our contacts, Abby knew a guy called David Drew, who was a really, really high-end guy that knew all people in the States and stuff, where we'd get all the cutouts from the States. He orchestrated a situation where we had to make a big grand opening of the shop. And we got Guy to open the shop, the band Guy on Motown Records. They came in and signed autographs. I don't think they did a PA though, but they were hanging out in the store. So that was immediately put us into the limelight. And from then on, we were just like, you know, controlling our own destiny. We were selling records that we liked. We got to a point, as you probably know, where we had a reputation of having records long before everyone else did. And that was because we would be getting the DATs and the scripts from the producers in America. What do you think of this, Rick? What do you think of this, Abby? I think we could sell 100 of those. Okay, cool. Put in question Kingsley, K4B. Remember K4B London?
Right, Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. He would send us the DATs. We'd have to listen to them. We go, yeah, we'd have a few of those. I remember getting the DATs of all the Michael Watford stuff. You know, is incredible that period. So yeah, so what was the question? Was the what was the question? What was the question?
No, you say
you don't stop me, because every time I'm talking, I'm getting these memories.
Good. The question was, how did the redundancy happen to you getting into?
Yeah, so I used that money for redundancy to pay.
So what did it cost you at that time for all of you to put a record shop together, roughly, at that time?
I really can't remember. We were quite lucky to have found the premises. We did get it. I'm sure Abby will correct me on this. We did get it for quite a good deal, because we had the shop downstairs. We had a basement we had a shop on the street level. Then downstairs we had like the R&B section.
Right, I remember that.
Then we had David living the floor above, and then I had an apartment at the top, the floor above that, and then we had someone else living above me. So we got that whole building quite cheap, not owning it, renting it, you know. And it was very unique. It was in a place in Dean Street where it was quite a boutiquey kind of area, you know. It was near Soho Square. It was off Oxford Street, so we used to get a lot of passing trade, and we'd have the doors open, just playing music. In the summer, it was like a bloody festival. You had cars outside, people hanging out, and you know, it was really, really cool. A fantastic shop, so many memories, and because of the reputation of the shop and that, it just transcended into the artists and the producers having to come by and say hello. You know, like yourself, Shep Pettibone came into the store. Larry Levan came into the store. You know, Timmy Ridgersford came into the store, hanged out. Morales. Everybody came, and we had this whiteboard. We had this whiteboard on when you walked into the office, and we made sure everybody signed sign this whiteboard. If I had that whiteboard now, my God, I'd be with you in New York with our own studio. You know, we'd be gold dust that board.
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, we were really lucky. Mariah Carey came into the store. It was just madness. Terry Hunter, for the first time, came into the store. I mean, it was an incredible, incredible feeling. And I think it was 3 years of absolute fantasticness, if that's the right word. It was just great, really great.
A lot of records from that store. You helped launch a lot of careers without even realizing it. You just on the love of the music, you just play the records. And
because we loved, me and Abby and Jeremy, we loved introducing people to records, to music, to parts of records. And we kind of changed the landscape a little, where, you know, there were people that were coming in that were just lovely people that would just come in and buy lovely music. Girls, you know, like stockbrokers used to come in and just buy records. And then I find out a few years down the line that they're DJs. You know, there's a couple of cats that I remember that Used to come in and used to buy records, and he used to buy lovely records. Then as he got into the culture of the category of culture, he'd go, I'll have 2 of those. And then when he really got into, I remember a couple of characters, I'll have 3 of those, 2 to mess around with, 1 just to have in the collection as a sealed copy, you know. And some people would have them as art pieces, you know, like, you know, collectors, like, you know, I just want that record. The Hard Drive EP, when that came out, you know, the hard drive Deep Inside.
Yeah, it came out with the disco ball and the.
I was very, very lucky because I had the apartment upstairs. I had my own studio, and I remember every time the DJs would come in, they'd come and hang out upstairs. Like Kenny would be playing on my MPC, making up a beat, you know, and Louis would be playing some keys and stuff like that. And in fact, Tony, when Tony was resident at Ministry of Sound, he did the master mix shows in my apartment, the Kiss FM master mix shows. He'd do that because I had the Yuri at the time. Benji got me a Yuri back in the day. Thank you very much, Benji. I've still got it now over there. And because the setup was similar to Tony's setup, Tony would come and do the shows in my apartment and then send the DATs to New York, you know. But in my apartment, I had a studio set up there. So basically, I've lost my train of thought there. What was I talking about? It was
how everybody in that catch a groove, how you had everything contained from the shop to people hanging out.
Yeah.
And Tony, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about my apartment. Why did I mention my apartment? I'm trying to mention my apartment. Why that was quite significant. I can't remember now.
Oh, yeah, Tony Humphrey's doing the master mix.
Well, Tony Humphrey's doing the master mix, you know, and everyone hanging out and stuff like that, you know. Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Deep Inside. So, Hard Drive came out a year and a half before. Mr. Vega was upstairs in my apartment and he gave me this DAT. And this DAT had Hard Drive Deep Inside, it had Voices of Freedom, and it had Hot For You, and it had a really sparse version of India, I Can't Get No Sleep. And at that time, obviously, you had no CDs, you had records. But I used to spend all my money, and I'm pretty sure the other DJs back in the day used to spend all their money on acetates.
That's right.
And there was a place called Music House in Holloway. And I used to go there every week because I was quite lucky to get these DATs. So I had Deep Inside for a year and a half before it came out. I used to hammer this record on a slate. I worn out about 5 or 6 slates. I used to beat this record up everywhere I played. And it got to the point where when we knew the record was coming out, we had about, I'm not lying, about 150 copies of that EP in the store. And because everyone knew the record was, I played it, maybe some other DJs played it, it just was flying off the shelves. And people were actually buying a couple of copies and then buying one just for themselves, just to keep, like, I remember that moment in time, you know, the Deep Inside, you know. So, yeah, it's a great memories. My God, I'm remembering so much stuff now. I'll probably have to tell you a few. Maybe need to do a part 2 of this.
No, keep going. We love you. Keep going.
Yeah, Hard Drive. There was Michael Watford, Holding On. Remember that one coming out? We had 100 copies of that. We sold that out in a day. I remember also going, I mean, a real true story. This is very true. We knew a lady in Virgin Records in the States, and she told us about this record because at that time, Daryl James and David Anthony, around like 90 or 92, 93, they were absolute fire. They were just knocking records out the ballpark. And this lady goes to Abby, oh, I've got this record, and they've done a mix. We don't like it. But I'll send you some anyway. I goes, what is it? Oh, it's this record, Aftershock, Slave to the Vibe. You might like it, you might not like it. So she sends over about 25 copies on import. Me, Jeremy and Abby lost our minds. It was just ridiculous. Why isn't this coming out? What's going on? We were the only shop to have that record. and we got some more. And we announced it that we're having Aftershock, becoming a shop on Saturday. We had queues going out the shop round the block to buy this import. And it got so popular that they were forced, Virgin was forced to put it out on a UK 12. And I can safely say we were responsible for breaking that record. Aftershock, Slave to the Vibe.
See that? So I tell people that's the kind of power the DJ had. And
the shop. And it was just, I think the shop was our personality, because we were always excited when a new record came in, and we'd feed that to the people. And then it just got to a point where everybody knew on Tuesdays and Saturdays there were new records, and they were also going there to be educated and to have another beautiful piece of time to take home and listen to. Do you understand what I mean? They weren't buying blind. We were kind of not in a bold kind of way. We were educating people with the records that we were playing, and they loved coming on Tuesday because they knew they would get a fix. And the Saturday, they knew they were, oh my God, I can't wait to go to Category because I'm hearing a new record that, Ricky or Jeremy Abbey's discovered, and it was like that. It wasn't like just a popular top 10, not like now where you have like a reference. You have a top 10 reference and you buy from the top 10 or whatever, obviously with the digital age, that's a completely different, that's another conversation. With the digital.
Yeah, we're not going to ask that question.
We're not going down that road because that's just another conversation.
Yeah, you can't, because if you entangle that into this,
Yeah, that'll just put oil in the water, wouldn't it? Really.
But you're giving us the glorious golden moment.
Yeah, those beautiful captures of time. In the 90s, we were very Cratty Groove, Black Market, Quaff Records. There was another one, Chocky's Tunes. There was a few records up in the north of London. They're really instrumental in pushing the 90s house sound. It was really a beautiful, beautiful period. Beautiful period.
I can't.
119 BPM, 120 BPM. It was glorious, 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 glorious times. I mean,
so I know Abbey and went on his own, and you guys, I know you left the shop because you took on a career.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
explain what happened there.
Unfortunately, the shop went through a couple of financial situations. Not going to lie, it just got to the point where we had to close the shop and move on. And Abbey went into the distribution game. I think Jeremy was quite a lost soul at the time and just immersed himself in buying the whole Salsoul record collection. I remember him saying to me when he started discovering records, he goes, Rick, I'm going to buy every single record on Salsoul. And I think he probably has got every single record on Salsoul. He lost his mind and went there. And I was DJing quite a lot. But the DJing was great, but I really was getting into making music. I started doing a couple of records on a label called Mighty. What was it? I can't remember now. The record label, and we called ourselves Too Dope Productions, which was before Kenny Goat. I remember that, before he called himself Too Dope Productions. We had an argument about that back in the day. And then I was making records like we had like an M1, I had an MPC, my first MPC 60, and we were kind of making records. I think it was on I can't remember the name of the label. I'm really, really sorry, but a few records came out there. And then when the shop closed, Fran, who I grew up with the sound systems and buying music and stuff, used to go to record stores and clean out people, go like up north or go to other record stores in England to buy records and stuff. He was at a crossroads as well, because I'm at the shop. All my belongings were in the flat. I had to move everything out of the flat, move everything back to my mum's. Fran was in the card game, I believe, and something happened where he had to leave the car game. He was actually making some records. He was getting inspired by people like Kerry Chandler, Mood to Swing, people like that, because they were gods to us. And basically, it came to cut a long story short. We didn't have no money, no outlet Fran had a little studio master desk in his box room in his mum's house, an Atari ST and a Juno 106. I had my MPC 60, and I remember him coming down to the store in a red Cavalier, putting all my belongings into his car and driving back to Wembley. It's like about, 40 minutes away. And I was really, really down. I was thinking, oh my God, this is so sad. It wasn't our fault why the record closed. And we let down so many people. Anyway, to cut long story short, Fran said, well, let's make some tunes together. Yeah, I goes, yeah, well, because we know each other. He goes, okay, cool. So, but Fran was more of the business side of end than I was. I remember him taking me up to up this hill near his house, and we discussed what we were going to do. And he goes, are we going to do this? And I went, yes. He goes, right, okay, we're going to go down this road. And I remember saying it on Andy's podcast. We shook our hands 50-50. That was the contract, and that was it. Everything down the line was 50-50. Whatever we did, no sign, nothing. It was that kind of friendship that we had, we have. And from then on, we just went gun-ho. We went to his house and we mixed all the early records on a 16-track studio master desk with the Atari ST with some sort of kind of arrangement. Then we wrote down on paper when to do all the punches. So we did it in one take. So all those records that came out on Cutting Records, on Todd's label, TNT, the Jerry Washington record, the Track Work EP, which had the bump on it, that was all done live, one take in a box room in Fran's house.
There you go.
So we did about 9 or 10 tracks. And then I went to New York around, this is like 95, 96 or something like that. And because I knew Benji really well, because Benji and Danny were like legendary DJs in our field, because they used to do these things called the Master Mix shows on Choice FM. Big up Benji, big up Danny, love you lots. They were doing these mixes that were just ridiculous. So they're like collector's items now.
Are we talking about Danny Morales?
Danny Buddha Morales and Benji Candelario.
Let's make sure they know. Benji Candelario.
Benji Candelario, the Don Dada, used to work at Mercury. I believe he was instrumental with Crystal Waters, getting that across the line. Yeah. He still is a major player in the game. Very humble, quiet like myself, doesn't want to mess around anybody, but he is like the brother I never had, apart from Fran, because everything that I have, he has. I went to a studio last week, and he's got exactly the same setup as me. Exactly the same setup. I mean, ridiculous. The Uri, the crossover, the MPC, the Mac, even down to the Mac. I've got an old Tower Mac. He's got the same thing as me. I mean, it's madness, And anyway, moving swiftly, we got this down of like 8 or 9 records. I spoke to Benji.
Let me show everybody what Fran looks like. This is his partner.
Yeah, that's Fran. That's Mr. Sidoli there.
Fran Sidoli, M&S Productions.
Man, yes.
The handshake that changed history.
Wow. And the handshake that changed history.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was that kind of thing. Because back in the day, it was really, and he's Italian, and I'm, it's that kind of look.
I don't break up my balls. My word. That's it.
And we basically done these records, and I went to New York, and I remember Benji taking me to Cutting Records, and Aldo signed a few records. Then we did a record for Todd called a TNT record. I can't Shoot the Juice EP. We sold that. And then they were coming out. These records are coming out from the States into England as imports.
Back into
who are these M&S? Who are these guys? Who are these? Because they thought we were Americans back in the day, Yeah. And we were really getting over. We were doing really, really well. And it came to a point where, we were doing really, really well. And then we did upstairs at Fran's. I came up with this like reggae bass line, this huge reggae kind of real subby kind of bass line. And we found this sound on a JD800. This sound that goes, oh, that's quite a nice, good sound for today's market, you know. Came up with some drums. And then I remember Fran playing these chords. I goes, yeah, those chords are great. Those chords are great. And then I whacked on this a cappella, this hip hop a cappella, trying to find a sample because you couldn't have a vocal booth, you couldn't have access to any vocals at all. So I'm going through these records and found this hip hop tune, and the rap stops, and this vocal comes in, justify my love. Oh my God, let's just use that. So we spanned the whole vocals across the keyboard, and then we just basically was firing the vocals in by the keyboard one by one. Justify my love. And then it got the attention. I can't remember how it happened, but we sold it to this Swiss guy, Pino Arduini.
Oh, remember Pino? DJ?
Yeah, Pino. He used to do a lot of really big clubs back in the day. I don't know what he's doing now. But then subsequently got signed to Strictly Rhythm. Gladys Pizarro.
Yep.
She loved the record. And we called it The Girl. We didn't know what to call it. Because the lawyer, well, I remember this contract from Strictly was like this, Mark Finkelstein. It was like this, to the point where we couldn't even read it, and it's so sad. It's so sad we didn't read it because they've got the rights, they've got the whole, anyway.
But Ricky, you have to explain why. The UK contracts were a one page.
Yeah, Americans shut the door on absolutely everything. To the point, I don't know if maybe, I don't know, we were so green then. When we were doing the contract, we were signing the contract, we didn't have a name for the group. And Henry Ellis, who's our lawyer at the time, and still is, we said, we haven't got a name for a group. And he said, just call it The Girl Next Door. Let's call it The Girl Next Door, Justify. Okay, let's call it The Girl Next Door. Little did we know that when you type in The Girl Next Door on the internet, it's all about porn, So that was a mistake. But we called it The Girl Next Door and called it Justify. Blew up. And then subsequently, when we did Salsoul Nugget quite a way further on, we didn't own the name because Strictly owned the name in that huge contract. We couldn't use the name. So I had to break bread with Mark Finkelstein, Park Lane Hotel or the Hilton Hotel in Piccadilly Square, trying to break, Mark, come on, give us a break here because you had a lot of good records with him. And he goes, okay, Rick, you can have it. So that's how we got to use The Girl Next Door for Salsoul Nugget,
Well, why would you name it the same as that record? Why did you decide?
Because of the success of Justify. It was such a big record. We didn't want to, when we made a point of not using M&S as an artist name because of that, because of the situations. If you put, I don't know if it's like now, but if you say record M&S as an artist and you call it The Documentary, that record label owns that name. You can't use that name. So we would always go M&S presents da 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 or M&S featuring da 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 da. So the record label never owned M&S. So we could go. So just to make sure that we could at least have our own name,
right?
And that's why we always used to go as different pseudonyms. Used to go as State of Mind. Used to go as oh my God, the Balls of London, or all these different pseudonyms, Urban Spirits. So they own that name. But 9 times out of 10, there would never be another record made using that name. So we always had M&S as our own, So we always made sure to make sure that people looked at the small print who produced the record,
But the Maverick single, I'm going to say the Maverick single, that girl, the one for Strictly that Pino signed, and then
Well, we found out it was Barbara Tucker. Barbara Barbara Tucker did that vocal when she was really, really way back. You know, we didn't know. I didn't know it was Barbara Tucker at the time.
That was that the record? That part on Madonna's record? That vocal part or no?
No, it was a rap. Is a I can't remember the name of it. Is a guy making a rap, but Justify. Then she comes in, Justify. I don't know the name of the record, but we sampled that. And it just culminated in Gladys believing in us.
Signing it.
And she signed the record. And because of the success of that record, and because we didn't own the vocal, the girl next door, we didn't own the vocal. And because we had the record and we're getting really minuscule residues that, but we had it blew up out of the kindness of her heart. And I've got to say, I mean, Gladys to this day still has the ear of all time. That ear of hers, all signed all those records on Strictly and then on Nervous. She absolutely stung.
Nobody for an era of time
gangster, proper. There's no one.
Nobody.
I'll say, I know. No, there's two people, in my opinion, have got the ear. No, there's two people that really resonate with me that I know has got an ear. That's Gladys Pizarro and Mr. Simon Dunmore. Mr. Simon Dunmore has the ear of all time. He knows her. He sniffs the record. He knows her hit from the kick. He
comes in at the right time to grab it.
Yeah. Simon and Gladys.
But the difference between Simon and Gladys, big difference was Gladys, because you know this is a record producer. Gladys is in the pit with you.
Yeah, she's in the trenches.
In the early time, like when we're like, you know, putting like building.
Well, she was early A&R. You'd give her an idea,
and she'd run with you.
A kick, a bass, and a clap, and a little vote. Yes, let's go. That's what it was like back in the day, as you know, an A&R person, right. They'd hear the record and they'd go, yes, I can hit. Yeah, go on, off you go. Here's some money. Go on. Now you got to have a video. You got to have 10,000 people following you.
Let's not go into what it is today.
Anyway, no, stop. Let's stop that conversation. Right. So basically, you know, Gladys had the greatest ears in the industry at that time.
Ambition and that golden ear.
Yeah.
She just knew it. She knew. She just had that sixth sense. Say, yeah. I love this. I want to see this. And
yeah, she believed. She believed in She loved Justify, because what was happening, because of me and Fran's immersive head into American music and American style music, we were making records that actually mistakenly did sound American with a little British twist. And Gladys liked that. Justify record and all the records that we did on Cutting, because it had that little British edge to it, that energy, but still had the sleaziness of the American kind of sound, you know. So the kindness of her heart, she said, Rick, Fran, come over to New York and let's make a record with Barbara Tucker. So she flew us from England to New York, went to the studio, Strictly Rhythm Studios, and the engineer was Anthony something, I can't remember now. And we wrote a record for Strictly with Barbara Tucker on vocals. And as a homage, because Fran also was into Boyd Jarvis, we called it Visual. And it was called Bring Me Love. We had Danny Thomas, who did a lot of backing vocals for us. He actually did Deeper. He came over and flew to New York and did the BVs with Barbara. And then we actually got our engineer to come over to engineer the track. And so we wrote that song with Barbara in Strictly Rhythm Studios. Another lovely story is when it was really cold in New York. And that was the time when me and Fran weren't really interested in making a record. We were interested in getting the N64 because it just come out and it wasn't out in the UK. So we were trying to run to all these stores to get the N64 with Super Mario to bring back to London, being the first people to have it. That's all we were interested in. What about making, we're going to go to New York, I'm going to find this, anyway. So we go into the studio now in the morning and Gladys is going, listen, Rick, Fran, I need your opinion on these couple of records. We just finished them a couple of days ago. Mood to Swing made these records, right?
Springsteen and John Chiffone.
Me and Fran, if it wasn't for Mood to Swing, we wouldn't have created our sound, because we loved what John Ciafone was doing, the kind of drum patterns he was doing. And David's programming back in the day was fantastic. So we kind of fused those together to create our own kind of drum sound. So anyway, we come into the studio. Gladys gives us these 2 DATs and tells us to listen to them. Just finished. We're going, okay. One of them was Lonnie Clark Searching, and the other one was Alternate 3. So she's going, which one of these records do you think is going to be a hit? Immediately, we said Alternate 3, but we loved Lonnie Clark Searching. That was the one for us, because that was just
banging house track.
Yeah, banging house track. And I remember she giving it to Louis Vega, and Louis was playing at the Shelter, and I went to the Shelter, and he was beating up 2 copies of the same track of Lonnie Clark Searching off acetate. I mean, that record to me was just bad. But we knew Alternate was free because of the message of the record. And we knew from the past records that Muta Swing did, this record was the culmination of all their work to bring this beautiful piece of commercial but underground music, and it was just loved. And everything was perfect. Everything was, the guitars, the drum, it was just right.
It was the right moment, the right time, everything aligned.
It was a culmination of all their skills. Do you understand what I mean? Earning their craft, and every producer has that culmination when they've put all their skills into this one rig. I'm sure you've got one. Me and Fran have got a couple. David's got a couple. All of the masters at work, all our peers.
The one record I hear from all of you is that Spread Love record every time.
Exactly. Spread Love.
It's like
all those other ones. All those ones we're using. All those live musicians.
Yeah.
The East Side Movement. Oh my God, all those records are fantastic. With that guy, the guy's second name beginning with P, Pescado.
Patanastro. He passed away, Michael Patanastro.
Oh wow! Oh my God!
Yeah. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that record. I used to beat up on Cult Records. Mila.
Mass Production. Oh, Mila. Mila. Yep.
Yeah, Cry Again or something. But yeah, great tune. But those, yeah, great times. And then basically, we were quite lucky to have heard Free for the first time before anyone else, and then we did the record, and then one of our dreams was to have an engineer that we used to love to mix our record.
Who was that?
Phil Pagano.
Phil Pagano. Wow, that's a name I've heard
because he was the Don. He used to have all these tricks up his sleeve, and with the delays and reverbs and stuff like that. And I remember him coming to this. He's a rock dude. I mean, you see his hairline, long hair.
Not too long ago. Yeah,
really small guy. And we always wanted to have Her Powers master our record, and we wanted an engineer of that ilk because he used to do a lot of Muta Swing things. I think he did a lot of master stuff as well.
Actually,
as well as Dave Darlington as well. Yeah. So when we're in the studio, we finished a track and we wanted to do this really bugged out dub, and Gladys hooked it up, and he comes into the studio, and we said to Phil, just do what you want. He goes, really? Because he was always, I think a lot of engineers were kind of like restricted in trying to do what they want to do. No, don't do too much of that. We left him to do his own thing, came back, and he gave us this dub that was just absolute fire, like using all the tricks of the trade and that. And that was quite a beautiful moment for us, having an engineer of who we were inspired by to actually make our record, Herb Powers mastering it, and actually doing a track in New York, producing a track with Barbara Tucker. That was a beautiful moment. It's fantastic, and many thanks to Gladys for getting that across the line.
And that's the thing. I tell people, I mean, I wish we had those type of positions again, where you have those people sitting at those desks waiting for our music to come in and give everyone a chance. And doesn't exist. It's
all about trust, Lenny. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's all about trust. If you give someone a record, an idea, that person back in the day, that person knew that idea where it was going to go to. They let you have the reins and do what you want, you know. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the industry right now that haven't been able to express themselves in that way, even record companies, because they have to follow the trend and stuff like that. And Gladys wasn't that kind of girl. She, you know, you'd have one beauty. That's why she created all these diffusions, the Strictly Rhythm Blue, for the beautiful vocals, the red, you know. And there's some tracks I couldn't understand, but when you hear them in the club, you say, oh, I know why she signed this record, you know.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, those labels back in the day, I mean, even a fantastic record label, which never saw the light of day over here, maybe for legal reasons, was Emotive Records. We used to, Catch a Groove was Emotive Records. We used to get, whatever record came out in Emotive, like James Howard, Valerie Johnson, all those kind of records, all the Joe Von stuff, we'd be selling those blind, because those kind of records were a staple diet of the American club scene in the 90s, you know. So I can't, you know,
you can't say enough about them.
I can't say nothing about them. I've still got a record to this day.
David Chang
and Josh, isn't it? Josh
Dorenzis. That's right before Ted Patterson and Hector Romero.
That's right. And Hector came on board. Yeah. So I remember another two stories is really bugged out, which I went out, because I'm remembering everything coming back to me now. I remember when I went to New York, and I had to go to the Strictly office to get some promos, if I remember right, or some records. And I remember going to this little apartment. I think it's a small apartment, going up these flights of stairs, walk in, and there's this Puerto Rican guy there. It was Frankie Feliciano giving me the promos, because he used to work at Strictly, but way back in the day.
Oh yeah,
and he gave me those. I remember giving me those promos back in the day. That's oh god, Frank. And look at Frankie now. Fair play to him. I love him. Love his productions. Love his
smooth, they're deep.
It's really beautiful.
Reconstruction Records.
All those cats, yeah. Mm-hmm. Frankie Feliciano. I remember meeting Blue Jean, all those kind of cats, all those real underground cats, you know.
Blue Jean, yeah, he used to work, and that, I think around that time he would have been working with Mike Usick's office.
Yeah, and as I said to you earlier on, you know, I couldn't believe I met the guy. Benji took me to a shop called Rock and Soul in New York, and I'm going through the records, and this little guy with big blue eyes goes, "Oh, can I help you?" It's Walter Gibbons. Walter Gibbons is working at Rock and Soul. I'm thinking, what the hell? You know, how
is this possible, right? How is this possible?
How is this guy here, who instrumental in making all those fabulous records back in the day, mixing tapes, cassettes, you know, and he's there in front of me, small guy, quite frail at the time, obviously, because he passed away later on.
Not too long after. Yeah, he was pretty. Yeah. Wasn't doing too
well. Serving me records. Walter Gibbons serving me records at Rock and Soul. Took me to the cutout section where you had all the bootleg records, all the ones that are hard to find, you know, like Danny's edit of The Shy Lights, My First Mistake.
And Love Is a Message on the Other Side.
Love Is a Message. And I said to you earlier, that record, This Is Got to Be Real, or no, not Got to Be Real.
Are You For Real?
Are You For Real?
And also the big one that everybody always looking for, Bra by Simony.
Bra, yeah, all those records. It's green, right? Disco Dub Bands on the other side, yeah.
And all the acapellas anonymous.
Yeah, all the acapella anonymouses, all that, yeah.
Great. Guys, there was a time when there was a guy named George the Bootlegger that used to make all those bootlegs.
Oh, okay.
He's no longer with us either. And he would come and bring all those what he's talking about, those cutouts were bootlegs of records that maybe you heard.
Basically, the records were out of print right then, and then basically you'd print them and have them. I remember buying oh my God, there's an Orange label which had this track called Electronic Drums. Do you remember that record? I remember trying to find these records. Every time Tony at Zanzibar would be introducing a new record or his famous mix of that beat with Stevie Wonder, All I Do, I had to find this record, and I eventually did find it. And I remember I got a tape. Sorry, all these memories keep coming back to you.
Right, we want you to dig in that golden ring. Go ahead.
I remember a tape with a track called "Attracted to You" on it with Anne Robinson.
I'm attracted to you.
Oh my God! I used to play that, and then I found out that was an acetate, and on the B side was David Cole doing a live overdubs of House Music Anthem.
That's right.
I remember having that. I think you still get it. I think you can get it now, but that record was rare as hen's teeth. I used to play that all the time. And Robinson and Tony turned me on to that.
I think that was the recording of David playing it with Bruce Forrest.
With Bruce Forrest, yeah, I think it was
Better Days, if I remember.
Yeah,
that was done.
That's the club I didn't get a chance to get to. I'd love to have gone there. I went to the Zanzibar, and that was a fantastic experience. I remember hearing Frankie at the World. That was a beautiful
look, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Me and Fran went there. Not Fran. Me and Abby went there. Abby and Abigail. That was a great night. Great night. Great night. I mean, the tempo, Lenny, back in the day. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the tempo back then. It was like 118, 119, 120.
Tony was,
and then I remember Tony telling me about the magic number after the whole Zanzibar era and minute. He said the magic number is 123. If you play a record, any record, regardless of the tempo, at 123, that's the magic number. Because if this record's too fast at 127, you put down 23, it gives you that sleaze. And if a record's too slow at 180, 190, you play 123. It's just got the energy, but just the right energy.
Right there.
Tony used to mix always at 123 back in the day, boss, but just a nice, and that's why it's this lovely hump, you know? It was, memories, God.
That's God. What I love. See, this is what I love. You know,
another one, sorry, I just remember another one with Tony Humphries. Oh my God. Sorry, Jesus, these memories coming to my head. High on Hope. With, High on Hope was around 88, 89.
Yep.
I remember, this was so vivid. I remember Frankie Fonsette, the Don, who actually was one of my inspirations. Stand-up guy. I played with him a couple of weeks at Garage City. Still got it. Still got the skills.
He looks great. Are you kidding me? He still looks fabulous.
He's better than me. What's going on there?
He looks fantastic.
So he's the Don of all Dons. The Don of all Dons. Very humble man.
Always dressed to the best.
Always the best. Yeah, love him to pieces. True inspiration of everybody in the UK house scene. One of the top.
100%.
And he was playing resident. He was resident at High and Hope, and I used to go there all the time with him as his, listen, to hang out with him and play. But me and him were really, really tight because going back in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, my friend Gary used to tape the WLS shows on Saturdays with Timmy Ridgersford, Bobby Condors, John Robinson. So every month, I'd get these tapes, right? A whole batch of tapes every week. I've got like a whole crate load of tapes. And me and Frank used to listen to these tapes and know all the records that were coming out, trying to find them. Like, do you remember Burrell? I really like.
Sure I do.
That tune, Timmy used to beat this up in a fashion. And he used to have these different edits of 212 North Street, or he played Touch Without You before it came out and all, and we were going crazy,
whose version is this? Whose version is that?
He played, I remember we were losing our minds over these two Blaze records. One was called I'll Do Anything for Your Loving. I'll do anything for your loving. And another one which escapes me, which was absolutely one of the best Blaze tracks ever made, in my opinion. It never came out. Then I see it on Tracksource a few years ago on this Street Scene something album. But Timmy used to play these records, and me and Frankie, when I was a computer engineer, used to sit in my car, and just listen to the tapes and try and find out what record was this and what record was that. Then when we used to find those records, Frank used to play them at High and Hope before anyone knew what the records were, because we already had them jump up and we already knew those records were fabulous. Anyway, to cut long story short, Frankie left and passed the torch to me to play the resident High and Hope with Norman. And Norman, knowing I was the 12-inch guy, because that Bluebird Records in Church Street in the early 80s, where I met Norman, when Norman had a sound system called Norman J Associates, I met him in the store with Abby, and Abby was selling us records. The way I met Norman was he knew I had all the 12 inches and he had all the album cuts. And I remember we were talking about records, and he wanted this record by the 80s Ladies, Turned On To You.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
A couple of copies.
Yeah.
And how we really bonded was, he goes to me, you give me 80s Ladies and I'll give you this. And basically we had this connection, and it kind of, we lost our way a bit, and then we ended up, him recognizing me at the Red Records and at Bluebird, and I became resident at High and Hope. And some of the moments there I will cherish forever and ever. High and Hope was a club that was inspired by the Paradise Garage, where we would encompass all different styles of music. We were playing New Jack Swing, we were playing hip hop, we were playing soul, funk, house, jazz, all encompassing a system by Joey J. He had this incredible system where anything you put on that system was like putting match to petrol, just leaping out the speakers. But because of the contacts that we had, everybody was coming through the club because people was recognizing what we're trying to introduce. And I'm not going to lie, it was on a Thursday night, and for like about 3 or 4 years, there was like about 10, 15 people a night, but they would be the same people coming every night because they wanted to hear the music, Jeremy used to come every night and listen to me and Norman and Frankie. Anyway, and to cut long story short, we knew Tony Humphries before Tony Humphries, if that makes sense. We invited him to come over to play at High and Hope. This guy played this record, Joe Von, Turn and Run Away. Oh my God. This record at 120, sampling Blaze, right? Remember that? Sample Blaze, If You Should Need a Friend. This record caused absolute mayhem at High and Hope.
I know it did.
Absolute mayhem. And that lit the torch, because after that week, everybody was coming to that club. Everybody. We had Marshall Jefferson playing, Fast Eddie playing. We had Shaka Khan performing there for free. On Vogue, coming to the club in their white suits, singing Hold On. And the reason why it was so popular, because we weren't announcing who was going to be playing. So we had everybody come. Who have they got this week? Who have they got next? We had On Vogue.
Don't worry, just come. You'll see.
David Morales was playing there. Tony came. We had Ashley Beadle, Shock Sound System playing there. But we were hammering all the records. But we were trying to encapsulate Tony Humphries Zanzibar with the Paradise Garage. So I'd be doing mixes where you'd hear a diva, In and Out of My Life, tracking with Casey Flight, Let's Get Jazzy.
Let's get jazz.
Yeah, so we'd get into the tracking time, and then Fran would be... Norman would be playing all the big, rare groove, all the eclectic stuff that Norman is the master of programming. And so it's a really beautiful mesh of different styles of music, But we had everyone going through those doors. I mean, Morales, everybody played there. It was ridiculous. Patrick Lilly was the guy that was instrumental in actually
who who later went on to do Queer Nation.
Queer Nation, I played at Queer Nation on the Sunday. That was a great club. Yes. In fact, that club, the Gardening Club, was where, yes, that's another one. At Catch a Groove, I met this guy, and we were of the same mentality. We were still stoners, but we used to love all this left field disco music. We were proper stoners, and we had a connection. A friend of ours, a guy called Marbo in Japan. He was, I don't know where he is now, but he was this guy in Japan, from Japan. He used to come in and buy all these left field disco, Walter Gibbonsy kind of stuff, and he knew Harvey. So he introduced me to Harvey, and me and DJ Harvey met, and he used to come into the store every week buying these tunes. We used to smoke weed together, getting high, getting completely, losing our minds, and with Catch a Groove and Harvey used to come in, we used to smoke all this stuff, and then he said, I want to do a night called Moist, right? So he did this club on a Friday night called Moist, and it was myself DJing there quite a lot. Harvey was old school. He wanted to do it the old school American way, where he'd play all night, because back in the day you wouldn't be having that kind of stuff in England. You'd be shot. You'd have to have at least 2 or 3 DJs, but he would play all night, and I was quite honored to play with him on a few nights. And anyway, that club, because of the connections with Japan and stuff like that, and because we kind of intertwined with the New York culture, he was able to get Larry Levan to play at Moist when he was resident at Ministry of Sound. So it was a very close-knit kind of kept secret. And that's the last time, I believe, Larry played in the UK before he passed away.
That's right.
And I remember the night, it was like, you couldn't see anybody. It was just fog, just smoke screen. And you just see Larry. I think Larry was playing out of his skin. He played absolutely everything. He played New Birth. He played Soft House Company. He was playing Tribal House. Everything. Just a huge swashbuckler mix. But it felt like he was going, this is how you do it. You understand? Like, this is what I'm about. And he played, to this day, one of the best sets I've ever heard. But in the way that it was just records. No, it was just throwing down one after the other. Boss, 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 boss. But he had this crowd into an absolute frenzy. I mean, it was just madness. And Harvey was responsible for actually getting Larry to come down and spin, because, they had that same kind of that mentality. And now look at Harvey. He's absolutely huge. He's playing stadiums and lives in...
It's crazy. Look at Harvey now. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I saw him about 5 years ago, and I hadn't seen him for like 30 years. It's like, oh my God, And as you know, he's one of those DJs that plays absolutely everything right across the board.
Yeah,
in a fantastic way, and it's fantastic. And I wish that could happen in Clubland in general, But that's another conversation.
The sadness. I'm feeling like the music and the strings are coming on with sadness again. It's like I'm trying to keep it up. Let me just say this to everybody. I was so proud of Ricky when I heard the bidding war began.
Oh God!
For this record, I'm gonna, this record, and because before I let him go, he's got to tell the story. This was at the time probably the highest, I'm going to click on it again, paid record as an advance at the time. It was nothing like it before. And we were all having huge hit records. And this record comes out, it's like we're hearing a 6-figure advance on the table. We're like, what? Okay. First I want to know about the Salsoul sample.
Well, basically,
the clearance money that you had.
Go down that. I mean, again, as I said on Andy's podcast.
Forget about Andy's. We love Andy. Love Andy to death.
Love Andy to
True House Stories. Want to hear
Andy?
What went down with that record?
Yeah, Andy Ward. My God, yes. Yeah, so I'm sure there's a clip out there in the internet of me explaining the whole scenario with Salsoul Nugget. Basically, you know, just a very short story. It was done out of frustration. We were managed by 19 at the time. Simon Fuller was our manager. Well, Danny D was our manager at the time. And Simon Fuller, who manages the Spice Girls and stuff, we were in that camp making records for those kind of people, S Club 7, Kathy Dennis and stuff like that. It just got to the point where me and Fran were really, really frustrated in making those kind of records. And we decided to opt out. Anyway, we decided to take a break. And I remember playing this record in the studio, The Sound of One, Victor Simonelli. And I heard this loop. And I thought, Double Explosion Everyman, my God, it's a great record. You know, let's just get it out of our system and put it in the MPC 3000. We had 2 samples. If you want to... No, we just had the groove. And basically... that record, Sound of One, inspired us. Liked the vocal, but we loved the groove. Yeah. So to cut a long story short, we created the groove. We went away on holiday. Fran messed around with it. I messed around with it. And then we came back with the money shot, which was the vocal hook. Because we thought, we could use this hook and it would sound like the Nightcrawlers, Push the Feeling On. You know, you know, and that sounds like the Nightcrawlers. It's got a commercial edge to it because we had a commercial head on from working with Simon Fuller and Danny D, trying to make the record crossover. Yeah, so we had that money shot. We said we need one more thing to make it work, and that one thing was the key change. So it's like a story. The whole record was a story because because the record was just 3 loops. We had to make it interesting. So we had to make sure every 8 bars something was changing all the time. So one would have the stabbing, one wouldn't. One would be the vocal, one would be the key change back to the vocal. Anyway, to cut long story short, Ministry had the license to Salsoul Nugget, to Salsoul Records. So every 3 years at that time, Salsoul was so hot that they were farming out the acapellas and all their catalogue to the record labels for 3 years for them to exploit. It came round to Ministry, and actually up there's a poster saying, "Want to be the next Spiller? Here's how. What have the following hit records got in common? M&S Salsoul Nugget, Black Box Ride on Time, Spiller Groove Jet, Lenny Fontana Chocolate Sensation, Rock Treat 'em Right, Yosh is What's Up Front That Counts, Spiller Groove Jet." Right?
Right. So they were really Salsoul. They're all Salsoul.
Exactly. So basically they had the license for 3 years. So they thought, you know what? And we were signed at Ministry by then because we were doing records for them as well. So they thought, let's do this record, and we could easily get it put away because it's
in house, right?
Yeah,
it's in house.
Yeah. So we drove down there. And I'm sure, as you saw on Andy's podcast, I was quite expletive when I got the response.
I don't know anything. I want.
Oh, you don't know. All right. Okay. So me and Fran are driving down thinking this record's bad. Oh my God, we're going to get
a badass track, right?
It's fantastic. And we're driving down thinking, oh my God, they got to sign it. How much are we going to get? Oh, it's got to be at least, right? Go into this A&R meeting, and you had this little Studio Master 8-track. We had to wait for like half an hour to get the DAT player. We didn't have a DAT player around that time. Found a DAT player. We made sure it was on DAT, not cassette, because we want to hear the full quality of this record. Put it into the machine, press play, and me and Fran are going, oh my God, this record is just... Oh, Jesus Christ, oh my God. And we're going, if you want to... And we go, oh my God, yes. Yes, we finally done it. We finally done it. The guy turns around and goes, Rick, Fran, I don't understand this record. I don't know what I don't understand. I go, and we're going, what? He goes, I don't understand it. I can't hear it. I'll give you $5,000 for it. And me and Fran, I'm like this. I didn't say so. Me and Fran are like this, and I'm holding his hand. I'm gripping it so tightly so that my hand doesn't come across and whack him in his forehead. You know, I goes, $5,000. He went, yeah. Goes, all right, fair enough. Fair enough. No problem. No problem. He walked out the office going, that's fucking key. What's wrong with him? You know, and we're driving back going, this guy, how can he, $5,000? What's wrong with him? You know, then we started saying all these bad things about him. Sorry. Anyway, we're sitting there thinking, it's a hit. We know it's a hit. What are we going to do? So we said, you know what? Let's press it ourselves. So we went to a pressing plant, got the acetate. We pressed 50 copies. And because of me being in the game, I knew all the high-end DJs, and we sent it to them personally with a handwritten note to each one. Hope you like Ricky and Fran, da, 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 da. And that just made it just go from this to this. Every man and his dog's playing this record to the point where it was so popular that it actually got bootlegged. I believe there was like 10,000 copies. If you've got M&S 001 on your white label, that's one of 50 copies. All the others didn't have that. So
just
if you find the record M&S 001 and it's got Ricky and Fran on it, I believe, in the side, you know, like on the record, there's some like a scrap, like what do you call it? What the engineer would put as the record.
Yeah,
like
he would do his signature.
Herb Powers would put the smiley face on his, wouldn't he? Yeah. Right. Basically, that would be M&S 001. So if you got that, you've got a good one of 50. Anyway, we pressed it ourselves, gave it to the DJs that we love. It blew up. Got to the point now where, you know, to cut a long story short, we knew we're getting people coming from all over the world asking to sign the record. And we kept on saying no, because we believed in the record so much that we wanted it to have a really, really good home. Then the bigwigs started coming in. We had like, all of them came. Sony came in quite hard, actually. They really wanted that track. And then basically we found out from one word or another that Pete Tong was going to play the record. And he created the record around the competition. He says, if you can tell me what the vocalist is actually singing, you've won the trip, you've won a ticket to whatever it was. So he was actually testing to see if the record was popular or not. So he plays the record, the phone lines have got, and so-and-so thinks this, so-and-so thinks it's that, so me and Fran are in our studio like this, a bottle of Jack Daniels, with the drink going, oh my God, is he going to sign it or not? So everyone's on the phone line, oh, so-and-so says this, so-and-so says that, with Pete Tong's talking away. Then the phone rings and it's Phil Faversham.
Phil, hey.
Right? You signed your record, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. I was going to say Phil Faversham.
Phil Faversham, we were another guy. And we're on loudspeaker and Phil goes, Rick, I love the record. It's a fantastic record. There's 50 grand records, and there's these records. This is one of those records. Let me know. And he put the phone down.
He was right to say it that way.
And me and Fran just lost our minds. The Jack Daniels bottle was finished.
I want to know who the $5,000 guy was. What ain't on there?
No, I can't do that. I'd get lynched. I can't do that.
Is he still around?
You just work it out. Work it out. It's Ministry of Sound around. This must have been 98, 99, around that era. So yeah.
Wait a minute. Ministry or Defected? Ministry. And then what happened? It got signed to FFRR for a ridiculous amount, but Sony kept on biting our heels. So they signed it for Europe, I believe, and
FFRR was part of Warner Brothers at the time, and that was signed for the rest of the world. And then full circle.
Wait a minute.
Full circle.
Ricky, hold on. Wait. I think FFRR was with Seagram's. Seagram's bought.
Yeah, but Warner Brothers own. I think they had. I think FFRR was part of Warner Brothers. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got the deal with Atlantic Records.
Yeah. That's right.
Right.
Sorry.
So basically, the record signed to FFRR. Sony took it for Europe, outside the North America or something, and then we got it signed to Atlantic via Big Beat Records.
That's
Craig
right.
Kalman.
Yep.
Craig Kalman signed my first record on Big Beat.
Ubiquity, right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
This was 1991. So all full circle, and he remembered me and he said, "No, just give it to me." And he put it on Atlantic, and I've got it there, double pack. Atlantic, the girl next door.
Let me go to it. Let's go to it. Wait. Let's go.
That one there.
There we go.
That is absolutely fantastic.
$5 million for the prize.
FFRR didn't want to put it out as it was. They wanted to put a vocal on top of it. So we had to find a top line. We had to find someone to sing the vocal over it. And we found Natasha Bryce because we were watching a film called The Fifth Element. And we saw this black girl as an air stewardess. And we thought, oh, that's a great, because we wanted more of an image kind of thing. And she happened to sing as well because her cousins are the Scoffleys. So she came in and sung the vocal. She had a storyline. So FFR were happy. She had a storyline, Fifth Element. We had a storyline as M&S, and we created this machine and we called it The Girl Next Door, Salsoul Nugget. I remember the 5 records, we got to number 6 in the pop charts, and the 5 records before us, up the top end, between 1 and 5, were all bona fide major label records.
Yep.
And we were the only underground record in that chart, and we got to number 6. If it wasn't for if those 5 records didn't come out at the same time, because as you know, back in the day, the records would come out on a Tuesday or something like that, and all come in, and then there'd be a chart thing happening, and whoever had the best distribution got the highest chart position, or the most press. We had Boys Town Gang, we had Shabby, It Wasn't Me. We had another couple of records that are really major artists, and we were at number 6, so we did quite well. Did really, really well. Really, really well.
Okay, everyone, for $5 million, who was the man?
I'm not telling you that figure. It's a very healthy figure. It's very nice. Very, very, very nice.
I asked this question, though. So people
understand. The sample. Oh, my God.
Sample clear, because I paid a lot of money. I've always thought, how much?
I had to fly to New York, to Salsoul Records, Bethlehem Music, to meet Glenn LaRusso.
That's right, Glenn LaRusso, yeah.
Glenn LaRusso looked like Barry Gibb. He had his hair like this. He had gleaming white teeth.
Ding, ding, ding.
And he's going, "Hey, Rick, I love the record. It's really, really cool. I'm going to need $75,000. I went, "What the?" And then we broke it down to a more reasonable figure. He took me around the back. I picked up a couple of reels. I got the double cross salsa. I got
Everyman
First Choice double cross 2-inch reel. The Everyman 2-inch reel. So I'm very happy. I remember one really weird story. I remember he showed me this cupboard, and he showed me all the memorabilia from the old Salsoul records, and they had the hot pants from Salsoul Nugget, and it did from wherever it was, and it still looked exactly the same. I mean, all soiled and everything. I mean, nasty. But and he had all these roller skates and stuff like that. But that was a great moment. Broke bread with Glenn LaRusso. Came back. So most of that, decent chunk of that went to the sample clearance. But listen to this, though. This is a great story. This is a beautiful story, which maybe we can end on, or if you want to talk.
We will end on this one, but tell us that great story.
Basically, hang on a second. So basically, the record comes out. When I had the meeting with the guy, we knew it was a hit, right? So we asked the guy, if we do sell it somewhere to another label, can you give us the license? He went, yes, no problem, Rick, friend. You can have it. You can have it. I'm sorry I can't hear the record, but yeah, if you sell it, you can have the license. No problem at all, right? So he went, okay, that's nice. It's a nice gesture. The record blows up. We're doing contracts. Our lawyer contacts ministry. No, you're not getting it for nothing. You want X amount of money. I'm thinking this geezer, and we're over a barrel. We couldn't do nothing because it's already crossed the line. We've done everything, you know.
See that?
Yeah, and that's the original slate.
I was saying that slates are done, so they're in a position they're going like this now.
Yeah,
what do you do?
And that was 19th of May 2000. Almost.
Yeah, guys, think about it. He's already like, now what do we do? We're already into this thing. It's blown up. We're going to the top of the pops, man.
Yeah, that's almost 23 years to the day. My God.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, he's got us over a barrel, so we got to pay up. We've got to pay up.
What happened to the ante? He said, no problem.
This guy, he goes, no. It was a constructed letter from their lawyers to us.
Yeah, of course.
And we thought, this fucking guy, Jesus, he's such a... Anyway, the record blows up, right? Gets to number 6 in the pop charts. And I've got a piece of paper there, a fax from him. 23 years ago, right? From this guy. Hi, Ricky and Fran. I guess I was wrong. You was right. But we're both going to be happy anyway. Kind regards. That's a true story.
$5 million, everyone. What's the guy's name? Send it out.
So anyway, he won, we won, and it's a great record. It stands the test of time.
It's so great. I still play it. Are you kidding?
Still love it. It's a great, and we actually did a re-release, the 20th anniversary 3 years ago. It came out on Tinted Records in Australia. And Mark Knight blessed us with a mix, and Mighty Mouse, God rest his soul, did a mix for us as well. So that kind of gave it a new resurgence with all the Spotify and all that nonsense, So
the
digital world, another conversation.
Let me leave you on this, everybody. And Gladys was here a little while ago, and she said this exactly, and I'm going to say this from my heart. I wouldn't trade none of it to what we all experienced.
We were in a very, very special, unique time, never to be done again. Those records that came out, I mean, I know we keep harping on about it, but there was a purple patch between 91 and 98. Those records stood the test. Glorious records, absolutely fabulous records, beautiful records, stories.
And you know what's crazy, everyone? Now I'm hearing the new kids producing records, right? New names, and what they sound like? Old Strictly Rhythm records, old Nervous records. They sound.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see old record labels from back in the day regurgitating their old stuff to introduce to a younger audience. And it's great that the younger producers are giving their twist on it, which we would think sacrilege to remix a beautiful record like, Beautiful People or something like that. And then put in, anyway, that's another conversation. But, in conclusion, my story is a story which is a very innocent story. This wasn't planned what I came to. I just loved music. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I was around some beautiful friends who shared the same taste as me, and that helped me on my journey. And it actually propelled me into a situation where I could be playing all over the world. I happened to have my best friend, my brother, who I was making records with, so that made life a lot easier. And the record shops, I was like very close friends of mine, so that made life a lot easier. It didn't become a business. It was just something that we loved, you know.
It's passion.
It's passion, you know.
Passion,
and everyone was on the same page, and that's why, we got on really well, and we created a few dents in the history of the UK scene, you know. So very privileged, very honoured to be part of it. And thank you, Lenny, for making me say my stories in one year to another, then up and down, left and right. Well, I'm getting memories now of other bits and pieces, but I'm trying to remember. But
no, you can't. Look, Ricky, you touched. I want to thank Ricky for turning me on to La Tavernetta on Dean Street. We used to all go there to eat Italian food. Ricky said, "Oh, we gotta go down the street. We'd all somehow get together and be eating Italian food." Right in Little Italy in Soho, which is a block away from the store. I want to thank Abby Shaw and Jeremy. All the fondness, all the craziness that went on, because there was a lot of crazy stuff we didn't talk about. It was a lot of crazy stuff, but that's what makes it the music industry. And on that note, Ricky Morrison, stay young forever at heart.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for joining in, people. I hope you got some kind of sense of what actually happened back in the day. And hopefully, I hope if there's any young'uns listening.
Oh, one question I had for you, Ricky, before I let you go.
Yeah.
Did you ever take a break where you stepped back for a while and you didn't do anything with music? Because you kind of went quiet for a moment. I was meaning to ask.
We went quiet actually because we had a purpose-built studio. We emulated our studio to the studio that we were working with, because we were working at a place called PWL, which, as you know, Pete Waterman, they had Kylie Minogue, Rick Astley working there, and they're working out of an SSL desk. We were working, all our mixes were from SSL E-Series. And then and we had to leave that studio because they were shutting it down, and we built a studio each in our house. No, we built a purpose-built studio. Guy called Mark Russell, big up yourself, Mark Russell, who built the studio for Defected. Great guy, fantastic guy, another record collector. He was working for a company and he built a studio, a replica of PWL. So we had the Genelec 1033s, the big.
You know, did you actually configure it as the bunker downstairs?
We configured the dimensions exactly the same as the bunker at PWL. Or was it the Borough? Upstairs one.
With the sliding doors?
Yeah, the sliding doors. Upstairs, because that sound upstairs was ridiculous.
I used to work downstairs in the bunker.
I used to work upstairs. Kerry Chandler, Todd Terry, all those cats used to work together up there with Champion Records. Remember Champion Records?
Oh, I sure remember Champion.
Oh, yeah. So I was doing stuff with him. And then basically me and Fran were working out of that studio. To cut long story short, that studio closed down. We built a studio ourselves with the same dimensions. And we were under a department store called Woolworths. It was like a 90-foot square space, and we built like a studio in the front of this space. Anyway, the landlord, thinking that he's got us over a barrel, says, "You know what? I'm putting the rates up." So he thought, you know what? Excuse my French, fuck this. So we broke the studio down, and we built a studio each, exactly the same, in our house. When we did that, we lost that purpose to work. Do you understand what I mean?
The drive.
Because you have the studio in your house, you think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it in the afternoon, and you never get round to it. It just got to the point, and we were using the digital technology back in the day where we would send files to each other, because he lived up the road from me. Instead of us meeting and actually being in the studio together to create music, to create a mood, we'd be sending, oh, what do you think of this beat? What do you think of those chords? And it just was non-inspiring. So it just got to the point where we weren't really making music because we weren't getting the juice. Every time we got a buzz is if we went to a studio to record a vocal or something, and the great good old days, you know. And we were paying like £2,500 a day for an SSL. And then when all that finished, we were going to the same similar studio for £500 a day. You know, it's like madness. You know, it's ridiculous. So in answer to your question, we got really uninspired. Yeah. And around that time, when the 2000s music that was coming out was getting a lot more digital, a lot more predictable.
And EDM
so,
was, and also that's another conversation.
EDM was coming out, and it was all about plugins. Hard disk recording was really kicked in. So we got a bit dismayed by it all, and then with Fran's family situation getting worse to worse, he decided to stop making music altogether. I carried on because I was DJing, and then I was still DJing, still living a good life, but wasn't inspired to make records because I wasn't working with Fran, and it culminated with Frankie Knuckles giving me a call saying he wanted me to remix Let's Stay Home because I loved all the M&S stuff. Can you give us a mix? Unfortunately, Fran wasn't able to do that, so I had to do it myself, and that got me going again. So I remixed Let's Stay Home. It was a fantastic Frankie's record, absolutely beautiful record.
Turn the ignition back on.
And it turned it back on, and I started doing stuff with Mr. Mike, and then and then it just got me back into it.
We need you to keep going. We don't want you to stop. That's what we was wondering what happened. Because there's a period they went quiet. Now we got the inside scoop, which was great.
Yeah.
Go, Ricky. Thank you again for sharing such wonderful stories. And next week, another great coming on. Georgie Porgy, music.
Oh, Georgie Porgy, yes.
We're going to Chicago. We're leaving London, and we're flying back to Chicago.
That's fantastic.
Georgie Porgy will be next week right here on True House Stories.
Wow.
Have a good night. Do not leave us, Rick. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Stay with us on the YouTube. You can see all the other shows. TrueHouseStories.com. Take care, everyone. Stay blessed. Good night.